You ever had a guy in a knockoff police costume show up on your porch, slap some toy handcuffs on the table, and announce you're under arrest by the HOA? I wish I was making that up. That's exactly what happened to me not long after I bought my so-called retirement cabin, and let me tell you, if you ever wanted to see how far a middle management dictator will go before it all blows up in their face, buckle up. Because this little HOA circus had no idea what kind of cabin they picked, and honestly, neither did I. You think your HOA's nuts mind literally tried to stage a citizen's arrest with a rental car and a badge from the costume aisle? So here's how all this kicked off. 3 weeks earlier, I finally decided to retire. 20 years as a top attorney in Colorado, I'd grilled CEOs till they broke before the jury even finished their lunch. But at the end of the day, I just wanted peace and a quiet place in the mountains. Signed the paperwork for my dream cabin in Pine Ridge, a little mountain spot 2 hours from Denver. Figured I'd spend my days walking my late wife's old dog, sipping coffee by the fire, breathing in the silence. Didn't realize I'd be swapping lawsuits for clipboard warfare by the third morning. The place was perfect rough timber, real stone fireplace, a view that could lower your blood pressure at least until Patricia Dorsey showed up. Now you need to picture this late 30s hair done to perfection posture so rigid it screamed regional manager, and a walk that meant business. She moved around my property with her clipboard like she was mapping a war zone. She didn't even introduce herself right away, just plopped down on my porch chair and hit me with, "We need to discuss some serious violations." Serious, like I'd just invaded a country, not just bought a mountain cabin. She had this red pen making check marks and frowning at things like the grass being too tall or the porch light being off-center. Said my cabin was going to be the showcase property for some grand HOA transformation, told me in this icy, helpful tone that sent a shiver straight down my back. She'd circle things on her clipboard, squint at my roof, lecture me about standards, then look back and announce my place would be the new center of everything. Now I know a power play when I see one. I didn't mention my legal background, just said I was retired, but her questions about my family finances, living situation, none of it sounded like neighborly small talk. She was sizing me up, wondering if I'd roll over or fight back. That night I found my first official violation notice taped to the door. And I mean official in the sense that it looked like a high school computer project, spelling mistakes, red pen and all. Violation of natural light ordinance, severity level, critical. I nearly spit out my coffee. Who the hell makes sunlight illegal? But it just got weirder. My paint was too rustic, my grass too wild, porch fixtures not illuminated at the exact right time, and apparently I owed $500 in fines due within a week or else. I'd seen fake deeds and forged wills in court, but this was a whole new level of backyard tyranny. So I called Patricia, thinking I'd at least get a conversation. What I got was her on a power trip, telling me she didn't need to explain the rules because I am the HOA. No elections, no board, just Patricia with more confidence than competence, rewriting the rules on the fly. When I asked about bylaws or actual paperwork, she brushed me off with, "I am the board." I started recording everything legal habit. Checked her teaching background online, fired from the local school district for pulling the same control freak routine, inventing policies, bullying teachers. She'd just traded school memos for violation notices, now running Pine Ridge like her own little empire. And here's where her plan made sense. 8 cabins in total, mostly part-timers, nobody wanted to fight. Most folks just paid the fines or left. But she'd picked the wrong guy. 20 years in fraud prosecution, I know when I'm dealing with a narcissist on a power bender. By the end of our call, I had enough to know I could bury her if I wanted. But I let her talk, let her dig. The next morning, no power, no water. Middle of winter, Colorado cold, and my house was as dark as a tomb. Patricia had called the utilities, played up her authority, and convinced them to shut me off. I melted snow to make coffee, brushed my teeth with a hunting knife, lived by the fireplace, felt like a pioneer. Except this was all because of one woman's ego trip. But here's the thing, each hour in that freezing cabin was just more evidence. I documented everything: videos of the blackout, photos of dead faucets, all the threatening texts Patricia sent like, "Weather's getting cold out there, Mr. Mitchell. You'll be leaving soon." I've seen plenty of criminals who can't resist taunting the mark. Patricia was about to be her own undoing. So I took my evidence to the real authorities, figuring any cop would see this for what it was: fraud, harassment, extortion. The sheriff's deputy just shrugged and told me, "That's a neighbor dispute, not our jurisdiction." Yeah, that happened. Patricia gave the cops her documentation, the same fake stuff she'd handed me, and they bought every word. They told me to work it out amicably. Meanwhile, Patricia strutted over to the patrol car, folder in hand, talking like she was the star witness at her own trial, and I just stood there watching the system I'd served for 2 decades write me off like I was some cranky old guy with a grudge. But I didn't quit. That night, I dusted off my legal books, brewed another pot of snowmelt coffee, and started digging. Patricia's paperwork was full of holes: no elections, no oversight, not a single real record. The HOA was just Patricia and her red pen. A week in, I was sitting by the fire thinking, maybe I really should just pack it in, when a car door slammed outside. At first, I thought maybe the deputies had changed their minds. But when I opened the door, it was Officer Tommy Dorsey, Patricia's grown son, dressed in a sheriff's department uniform that looked like it had been ordered off Amazon. His badge was crooked hand shaking, and the arrest warrant was a printout in Times New Roman with legalese obviously ripped off a random website. You know what I mean? When I say the secondhand embarrassment was real, I offered him coffee just to keep him talking. And the more I asked, the worse it got. Didn't know his own badge number pointed to a rental car with a temporary decal. Finally let slip, Mom. Dispatch told me to arrest you. The courtroom part of my brain just stood up and applauded. Patricia had staged the whole thing, used her own son as the muscle, and now he was crumbling. Tommy confessed everything she'd bullied him into helping, threatened to kick him out if he didn't go along. He gave me texts, emails, even told me about other families Patricia had driven away using the same intimidation tactics. It wasn't just an HOA power trip, it was a years-long scam. I made a deal with Tommy, he'd help me set the final trap. He called Patricia, told her I'd been arrested, lured her to the cabin for her big moment. Meanwhile, I was emailing a detective buddy at the Attorney General's office, sending all the proof I had. When Patricia burst in heels, tapping eyes sparkling like she'd just closed the world's biggest real estate deal, she ordered me to sign over my property for pennies, all while my phone recorded everything. And then the kicker. She pulled out her phone, wanted a selfie to document her victory, started laying out her crimes like she was reading from a script. I stood up, looked straight at the camera, and said, "Patricia Dorsey, I'm James Mitchell, retired state fraud prosecutor. You just confessed to multiple felonies while being recorded. And in about 2 minutes, real police will be here to arrest you." Tommy took off his fake badge, backed away from his mother, and you could see the panic hit her in waves. She tried to get the last word in, but it was too late. My detective friend had already dispatched state investigators. Watching Patricia get hauled out in handcuffs was the most satisfying moment I've had in years. The news ran with the story, "Fake HOA Queen Busted in Mountain Scam," and suddenly victims from other towns were calling, telling their own Patricia stories. Tommy got probation, a shot at turning his life around. Even a job offer from one of the real deputies said something like, "You've got a conscience, kid. That's rare." A week later, my power and water were back. Neighbors brought me apple butter, thanked me for giving us our place back. I sat on the porch, mug in hand, the mountains stretched out and silent, and thought, told you, I'd find peace, just had to go through one more trial. If you've ever had a run-in with an HOA dictator or someone who just couldn't let go of their little bit of power, you know how tempting it is to give up. But patience, documentation, and persistence, that's how you bring them down. Bullies always dig their own grave. You just have to give them enough rope. So here's my challenge. Tell me your craziest HOA story in the comments. Who was right? Who was wrong? And where does justice really land when the rules get twisted? Hit that, like, and subscribe if you believe community should mean something more than red tape and power trips. Because trust me, You never know when your story is going to be the next one that blows the lid off.